Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Unique Peace. Thank you for bearing with us when we had a few technical challenges. I just want to let you know Lorianne will be joining us this morning. She's just running a few minutes late. And in the meantime, I wanted to bring in some information about some events that I am personally involved in. So, just in case you didn't know, I like to be involved with the LIE Gala. And this year we are sponsoring Horseability. We're raising money for Horseability, which is an equine farm that helps individuals with special needs through equine therapy. And there are still tickets and sponsorship availability. All you have to do is go to the lie.org. liegala.org to either buy a ticket for this year's event, which is in November, or again, sponsor a table, sponsorship is available. And then on October 19th, my friend Brian Orlando, he will be signing copies of his book at the Next Chapter in Huntington. And Vinny Dabrowski will be joining him, the front man for Sponge. So you guys can come on down, get a copy of the book, get it signed by both of them, and then come on down to the Paramount where you'll be able to watch the Sponge and Everclear concert. Fun night, fun times. So come and join us. And I personally do Conversations with Spirit, which are small gallery readings. And there are still spaces available for this Thursday. And I do have a couple of spaces left for the 30th. So if you're looking to maybe get a reading, experience what a gallery reading is like, I recommend you join us. And you can find all the details on thequiethealer.com. So those are things that are going on. And thank you. Yes, it's nice to be heard now. And like I said, Coach Lorianne will be joining us soon. She is amazing. She is number one motivational coach in America. She's met with Jack Canfield. She is a radio show host, and I can't wait to hear her story when she is able to join us. So I want to take a minute and do maybe a few minutes of quiet breathing and get centered. So if you all want to join me in closing your eyes, taking a deep breath in through your nose, bringing it down into your belly, and exhale. Take a deep breath in through your nose, bring it down into your belly, and exhale. One more deep breath in through the nose, bring it down into the belly, and exhale. Now I just want you to take a moment to notice your surroundings. Your eyes are closed, so what do you hear? What do you feel? And take a moment to just absorb everything going on. Note what you're feeling, what is yours, what maybe you need to release today. Let go of it. Take a moment to take in the sounds. Maybe you want to change the audio today, go to the beach, maybe a park, get away from the noise. Just take the time to notice what you're feeling, what you want to let go of. Today's going to be a beautiful day to get out in nature and just let stuff go. Have a peaceful day today. Once you kind of are centered and have a moment, you can open your eyes again. Come back to where we are. Come back to the room. And take a moment. It is Sunday. here when this is broadcast live. And we are always trying to bring peace into our lives every day. So take a moment to consider what would bring you peace today. What would bring you peace today? Me personally, believe it or not, making sure my house is clean. Because when my house is clean, I don't have to worry about too much about the laundry and the dishes and the not feeling like Cinderella, because that's now all of a sudden in my head, and just getting it taken care of and reminding my housemates, my son, my husband, that hey, sometimes I need a little help. So let's work on that together. And when you work as a team and get it done as a family or as a group, it makes it go faster, and then you can go out and enjoy the rest of the day with no worries. Also, when you clean up your space and release the clutter, your mind clears up. And that does help find peace because you don't have so much on your mind when you do that. Thank you. Um, so, for those of you out there, what are some ways that you bring peace into your own life on a beautiful Sunday? You know, do you hike? Do you go to church? Do you go to the beach? Do you go to the church and then go to the beach? Or do you go to church and then go to a hike? Uh, Maybe you meditate. And it doesn't always have to be on Sunday. It's like, what do you do on a regular basis to find peace? Me personally, as many of you know, I get up, I like to exercise, I like to journal. We recently got a cat, and recently he's a kitten, but he's had him for a few weeks. He's looking less like a kitten and more like a cat. And we have our little morning routine. And he'll come and stay with me after breakfast. He'll have his breakfast. He'll come sit with me on the couch when I have my coffee while I'm journaling, or he'll try and help me exercise. That's fun. If anybody's ever done goat yoga, I have not, but I've seen it. You can tell that it's fun when I try and help you exercise. So, what else? Please do let me know in the comments what y'all are doing today to find peace. What brings you peace? Personally, cutting through the clutter and keeping things clean and neat is a big thing. Because when you have all that clutter, what you really are doing is filling your brain with stuff, and then you get overwhelmed. When you take away all the clutter or a good chunk of the clutter, your brain opens up and you're focused. Remember, if you're the Gen X age, you remember it's okay to be bored because then you get creative. That's, part of it is being part of the clean house club or the clean desk club means that, okay, all this is done. Now what do I do? And you have to come up with some creative ideas or go do something. And as an introvert, that second one is kind of interesting for me because I'm like, oh, I have to go do something. And lately I haven't been doing it as much as I should, but I'm getting back to it. And we are now going to be joined by the lovely Coach Lori Ann. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I am wonderful. Wonderful. How are you doing?
I am doing good. We were just talking about cutting the clutter to find peace.
Lovely. Yes, yes, yes.
So I did give a lovely introduction, but I will do it again. This is Coach Lori Ann. She is a motivational coach. She's a success coach and a motivational speaker. She has had the pleasure of meeting Jack Canfield. I love him. You are a radio show host, and we'll get into that in a minute. But tell us a little bit about your story, how you came to be a coach. Because a lot of what I've noticed is a lot of people will have like a moment of like, I had one of those myself, this isn't working anymore, and I got to leave it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I had one of those moments, no doubt. No doubt. But I need to let you know that going all the way back to age 7, believe it or not, I discovered just recently I've been coaching since I was 7. And I just wanted to tell you the story about it. I didn't get paid for it, obviously, but I have a sister who's 2 years older. She's challenged. She has the ability of a 5-year-old is her IQ, I guess that they say. And so I always had that challenge. So at 7, my mom said to me, Lorianne, I need your help. I need you to make your sister's bed. And when I was growing up, we shared a room. My sister and I shared a room, and my brothers had shared a room. And my brothers were like 10 years older, so it was like a whole different family. You know, you can only imagine, the beating up that went on in the game.
There's some big age gaps in my family too. I'm the oldest.
So you understand.
So I understand.
Yeah, it's like, stop following me. All right. I didn't know. I just wanted to emulate them, right? So anyway, mom says to me, I want, you need to make her bed. And I was like, well, why can't Beth do it? And she was like, well, she doesn't have the ability to do it. And I was just, that didn't resonate with me. And so I was just like, for 2 reasons. One, I didn't want to do it. Right. So that was one of the reasons. That's an honest reason. Right. And the other was I didn't understand why she couldn't. So I started to teach her to do it. Now, it's not a bounce the quarter off the bed type of a bed making thing. She wasn't in the military, so it didn't matter, but it was about making her bed. So I raised the bar on my sister. My mom had lowered her bar. Because of a lot of different reasons, which we don't have time to get into. That's another conversation. And she was doing the best she could, right? And I was helping out. But I taught my sister how to make her bed. And then I taught my sister how to dress herself. And I taught my sister mostly out of, I didn't want to do it, but also out of, I know she could. And that was the pivotal moment for me to know. And as years go by, I continued to do that. I saw the greatness in other people. I saw the ability in other people. I have that superpower. And I was like, no, you're more than that. And so as I was growing up and as I went through my years, I would find teachers and adults and administrators and principals. And I'd always end up working with them and saying, well, why not this? And how come not this? And help me understand that, which was why my TV show is called Help Me Understand, because everybody who knows me knows I say that all the time. It brings fear in my kids because they're like, oh no, because they know I'm going to have them try to explain something.
I have a similar question, like walk me through the logic. And they're like,
yes, that's great. That's great. So, fast forward to being in a job that I absolutely love, but it was challenging. Not challenging the way you would want it to be. I noticed I was getting sick. I was constantly getting sick. I knew something didn't feel right here in my chest. I just, I loved what I did, but I didn't love coming to work. And there were a lot of like little battles. And I was just like, one day I was like, enough, I'm done. And the pivotal point, and it was a little horrifying, as I walked into this meeting. And all along I'd been saying, I reported to the president. I was saying to the president, am I going to be, when are we going to start this project? It was this big, huge project. And I was, when are we going to start the project? We will. And I really want to be part of it. Yeah, you're going to be. Yeah. And I walked into this meeting and I looked up at the screen and it was done. The project was done without me.
Oh.
And I felt every possible emotion. I was angry. I was disappointed. I was like, why didn't they want me part of this project? Why didn't they want me part of it? Every emotion you could think about, but yet there was a calm that went over me. It was kind of eerie. And I just sat there. I made a couple of recommendations, just maybe to elevate it a little bit. And then at the end of the meeting, I got up. I don't know whatever possessed me to do this. I walked into the office of the president, and I was like, took out my access card and I put it on his desk, and I went, "Thank you, we're done. Thank you for the opportunity, but I'm done." And I walked out the door. I didn't have anything to go to. It was a 6-figure salary. I was a single mom at that time. I had a house that I had to pay for, a mortgage that I had to pay for. It was daunting, but yet I didn't feel that way. And as I was driving down the Long Island Expressway, because I lived on Long Island at the time, I kind of felt this weight off of my shoulders. And I didn't know what was next. And I came from marketing. So I was like, all right, I'll start my own marketing firm. A lot of people have been asking me, why are you just doing it for this company? Do it for me. So I started doing that. But within 3 months of starting doing that and doing that business, and through it all, I felt this relief. This was a pivotal point, and it was a no more point. No more will I allow them to treat me the way they are. No more will I allow them to speak to me they were doing. And I wasn't going to accept the way they were accepting what I was offering. So I started my own business. Within 3 months, there was a calling. And I was really coaching people all along. I was coaching that president, and I got him on this really important board that nobody else could get him on, but I knew how to do it. And I got him on the board. And he may or may not remember that, but I do. And that's all that matters. I did what I was supposed to do. I didn't know there was a thing called getting paid for coaching. I didn't know that. I knew muses and mentors, and there were all these different names, consultants. And then that day came, and I met Jack Canfield. And that was it. That was it. And I became a senior trainer for him. I'm one of 17 senior trainers for Jack. I train other coaches. And I just knew this was my calling. And I knew that that's what I was supposed to do. And I just felt it. And it took me a while to separate from marketing, to have the trust in God, universe, source, to believe that this was my path. But I had to release the marketing part. I utilize those in tools when I'm coaching my clients, of course. But that was only one of many tools I had put into my tool belt. And when I look back at all the different jobs I had, all those tools I put in my tool belt along the way helped me to do what I do right now today. And that's how I got into coaching. I've been coaching ever since 2018. That's what I do full time, is I coach. I help people out, and I love it when I see that spark in someone. And I was just like, yes, those aha moments are
perfect. They're perfect. And that's very funny, how you say you add to your tool belt, because that's how when I started out, I also come from a marketing background, and then I have HR, and I'm an empath, and it's very funny how my life is taking those turns. I acknowledge that right now, but it's, again, having that faith and trust.
Oh yeah, it was scary. Don't get me wrong. Don't let me mislead you. When I was driving down the LAE and I felt that release, that was beautiful. But I was also like, in my head, it's like, what are you doing? What are you going to do next? I was literally waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was like, when am I going to have that nervous breakdown? It never came, because there was a peace. And the reason why there was peace is because I was finally on the right track. And finally I said, no more. I'm not going to accept this anymore. I accepted the way I was being treated. I accepted the challenge of someone. They literally had a vice president there trying to break me, break my spirit, break me, because they wanted me to drink this Kool-Aid. And I'm not a Kool-Aid drinker. It's just not for me, which told me, I'm here to lead. I'm here. There's something bigger here for me. But I just had to say no more. And it's up to us to say that. And when you're ready, people like you and I are here. We're here to help you take it. And the other thing is when I was going through it, I wish I had a me. I wish I knew there were me's out there available. Right? Wouldn't that make that transition and that pivot? But you and I had to go through it. So when we meet other people, we see it. It's so easy to see. And, someone told me a long time ago, you can't read the label from the inside of the bottle. So true. That's why I have
I love that. I've never heard that before.
Oh, yes. It's a great saying. You cannot read the label from the inside of the bottle. That's why we need people like coaches. And that's why I have 5 coaches. And people go, you have 5 coaches? I'm like, yeah, they all have different expertise. And they all help me be a better coach for the people I'm supposed to be coaching. I don't have all the answers. And sometimes my clients will come to me and I'm like, I don't know. I'll get back though. And I talk to my coaches and I find out, and I bring the tools. And that's why I have all these tool belts. And that's why those circles of influence, whether it's from my church or whether it's from my Lions Club or my Moose Club or my Rotarian Club or my neighbors or my families or my friends or the various people I've learned through work, I bring all of those tools to you and say, here, what do you need? Let's use these tools. And that's the gift that you and I have, is that we do have these tool belts. And we all have those tool belts. We all have it. We just don't look at it like that, because those circles of influence help us be better. I don't have all the answers, and I would never profess to say that I do, but I know how to get you where you're going to go, and maybe faster, definitely faster. I can get you faster further because I either have the resources or the knowledge because I've tried to jump the hurdle. I kind of liken it to skiing. You ever ski and you have the moguls?
Funny story. I grew up in Colorado. I won't go near snowboarding or skiing.
Okay, okay.
But I know people who do both of those.
Yes, yes. So I'm a skier, but I'm not a mogul skier. I like the blacks are, oh, those are really good for other people, but I like the limbs where they are currently.
Yeah.
So my risk taking is, moderate on that. But I look at moguls and I just think of them sometimes, and that's why I liken this to taking a mogul. Mogul's a little hill while you're skiing, right? So sometimes when you hit a mogul, you end up catching air and you're in the air. I find no reason to do that. So if I can get around the mogul or go through the mogul, or go sideways and kind of move the mogul, I'd rather do that than go over the mogul. And that's what coaches and why we're here to help you along, and why we work, I say, walk alongside you, to go help you through your journey and just be the sounding board. You could tell us in safety, in a safe environment, anything. And we don't judge. We don't hold it against you. We don't make decisions for you. I make suggestions. You make decisions, right? Yeah. And so all I do is I help you, guide you around the mogul, or there to pick you up if you decide to take the mogul jump. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we have to take those jumps. You and I took those jumps. I took that jump when I left that job. Yes. I jumped. I caught air. It was scary. It was very lonely for a while. And then I realized I had all these tools and all these people in my life, and I had the ability, and God doesn't give us anything, universe, God, source, however you refer to your higher power, does not give us anything that we don't have the tools to handle. And they are always with us. And they put people like you in our lives to walk alongside us and help us guide us. And that's the magic and the mystery of what we do. And that's the thing that fills us up, is to be able to serve other people, because we're here for two reasons: to learn, because that's how we learn from failures, right? We learn. And that's why those big pivots I look at as big opportunities. I could have gone a different way. I could have stayed there. That wasn't for me. I was done. And God was waiting for me to say, and done. And it was like, thank you. Because they kept
Finally.
Finally, you get it. All right, Lorianne. Good job. And that's the point where you sit there and go, okay, I kept getting served the same lesson. And when you keep getting served the same lesson, here's the cool thing. When you're getting served the lesson at the beginning, it's a nudge, it's a whisper. And if you're paying attention, you pick it up, right?
Right.
But as you go, if you're not paying attention, it gets served again. It's a little harder, maybe like a punch in the arm, right? And then it gets a little harder, and it's like a punch in the face. And then it gets a little harder, and it's like you're rolled over by a truck. And mine, I was rolled over by a truck and backed up over before I finally got it, but whatever. I now choose, it's like the Waze app. You know how it gives you 3 different ways to go? It's like a short direct, it's a little longer, and then there's a really long way around. I kept trying to round peg, square hole in, and I was like, no, I know better. And I took that long, nasty route all the way. We're going to end up where we're going to end up no matter what. It just may be a long way. I choose to take the short path now. So I look for the whispers. I open my heart. I look for the signs, and literally there are billboards that will give you an answer to your question if you're paying attention. There are billboards that will just say the word yes. And you've driven by it 100 times, and all of a sudden that day you see that billboard, you see that yes. Have you ever gotten in your car and heard the song that answered the question that was in your head?
Yes.
That's no mistake. Those are whispers and nudges. Try to go for the whispers and nudges, but sometimes, like I said, we have to get run over by the truck, figuratively. Not
it's the hard way, the square peg round hold. I felt like that many times. I too just abruptly, not abruptly, I gave 2 months notice. I was nice because I knew I had a lot of things to get in order for the next person. I always want to leave the situation better for the next person.
Sure, always.
But I was a single mom. I had nothing lined up, and I said I had enough. here you go. Here's my resignation.
Yes.
And that was a shock to the person, to the head of HR. She was like, but you have a son and you're a single mom. And I go, and I'm no use to him if I'm in the hospital.
Fear-based words. Listen to the words.
Yeah.
She was putting fear-based. And when someone says like that, I think it's good intention, but it's really their fear, not ours.
Yeah.
And so we need to listen to the words people are saying to us, heed them, but also recognize that may not be your path, and
Right.
that wasn't your path. So you said, no, I'm still doing it, right?
Oh yeah. I could not. I could not. I mean, I tell the whole story. I have a presentation. I tell the whole story of how I got there.
Yeah.
And why it was one of the best things I've ever done.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Hardest, scariest.
Oh, terrifying.
Scariest, right? Oh my God. How am I going to put food on the table? I had 2 sons in college.
Oh goodness. Yeah.
How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this alone? How am I going to keep this roof over my head? You know, it was, I made a promise, and that promise was to have my son graduate from the high school. He didn't want us to move when we had the divorce. And my husband wasn't in the state anymore. And I wanted to keep him in that school district. And it wasn't an option to buy a smaller house in that same district because it was going to cost me more. That didn't make sense.
I know, right?
4 jobs, blah, 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 until I landed this job. And it's fine. You know, that journey, all of those pivots, all those micro pivots came to this point where I had enough to say, I'm done. And that major pivot opened up so many opportunities. It also opened the awareness that all along I felt like a victim. And all along I had the power. All along I had to have that awareness that I really did have the power. And it was a power of choice. And my choice was no more, like yours. That choice was no more. And the brilliance that came out of that, the challenges, small little compared to that moment, everything else is like, I got this, right? I got this. And I don't mean that in a cocky way. It just like compared to that moment, this is easy. This is a micro. This is a micro, not a macro. And every pivot doesn't have to. You don't have to go to macros if you don't want to. But when they come, I look at it as huge opportunity. So I had huge opportunity to do anything I wanted. And then literally, and you know you're on the right path because we get notice. Things come. You ever get that phone call and go, I cannot believe that they just called because I was just at, yeah.
Yes, that's not a lot recently. So yes, that's great.
Yes, that's a confirmation you're on the right path. You feel it here. There's a sense of calm. That's the only way I can explain it. Calm or peace. That's when you know where you're supposed to go. You know, I'm in the process of finishing up my book, Justifiable Excuses, which will come out November 1st. And in the book, I talk about this peace, this calmness that we speak from the heart. The heart is really our brain. Our brains are the mechanism to execute. So the what you want is in the heart. The what we're supposed to do is here in our heart. All our success codes we're born with are here in our heart. The brain is kind of like a laptop. You know how a laptop, you're on it, it does all this really great stuff for you because you're telling it what to do. That's our brain. But when we shut the laptop, it just hangs out and goes, okay, I'm going to wait for Lorianne to come back on and tell me what to do next. That's our brain. Brains are magnificent, but it's the heart that is telling our brain what to do. And there's science behind it. And I talk about the science lightly because I don't want to dive in and get too geeky on people. But there's science now that proves that the heart is really the mechanism that runs everything, and including our brain. And I would suspect too that, you know how we get prayer hands and we always put them in our heart and it points to our crown chakra. So from our heart chakra to our crown chakra, and that connects us to our universe, God, source. I say that is why we do this. And that is why all along, I've always wondered, like, why is it a prayer hand? Why do we do that? And someone told me it connects your heart chakra with your crown chakra. And I was just like, you know, another one of those moments, and why that has always been connected with the higher being, with our higher power. And now when they finally proved out what I've known since I was little, I was like, no, Life is a happy ending. It ends here. And yes, we can be happy and we can be fulfilled. And I don't believe in the not happy endings, because with every challenge, there is a lesson we are supposed to learn. So when there's a challenge in front of you, instead of pity poor me party, which is a choice, and that's okay to do. I did pity poor me party for 7 years. Trust me, it got boring. It got really boring.
Yeah.
And I decided to make a different choice, right? But the choice too could be looking at it and asking yourself this one simple question: what am I supposed to learn? So we're here to learn and to serve. And when you look at a challenge from a place of what am I supposed to learn, you've changed your lens from ego, which is emotions, to observer, which is no emotions. That's how we can, that's reading the label from the outside of the bottle. We have no emotions. There's no emotions connected to it. Not that we're emotionless, but we're looking at it from the outside in, from an observer, and all these answers come easier because it's not veiled in emotion. You know, I went to law school because I love the way lawyers think, because they push emotion aside and they get right to the issue. That has served me in this, because that's what we're trying to do. Just push emotions aside for a second, take yourself out, and see if you could learn to move into your observer sooner. It used to take me months, then it came weeks. Now it comes within seconds. I know where I am. I'm aware of it, because everything comes from awareness. And then I move to my observer and go, okay, what am I supposed to learn here? So if we can do that, if we can make that shift, and it takes time.
Yes.
We've trained for many, many years doing it the other way, seeped in emotion. And that's why I said, when you have a coach, they can get you into that observer. They can help you look at it from a different angle. We don't tell you what to do. We just show you there's a lot of different choices out there.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's amazing, because you brought up peace and calm a couple of times. So that actually goes into the next, very first question I like to ask. And you've been through a lot, and it took you a while to get to where you're at. So what has that contributed to your personal definition of peace? How do you personally define peace?
Peace for me is knowing what you want, serving and giving back, and really being connected. That connection is a peace that brings, because you're never alone, and you always have someone who has your back. And universe, God, source has our back. And when you understand that, and you get back to the truth of who you are, and be honest, good, bad, and ugly. Be honest, because we all have good, bad, and ugly. We're humans. We're human, right? We have good, bad, and ugly. We forgive ourselves. We get to our truth. And then we start this thing called trust. Whew, that's a hard one. That was a hard one for me. But when I started trusting, and I started believing, and a belief is just a thought we think over and over again. And I believed in the trust that God has my back, that I am not alone. When I started really trusting, that provided that peace. And when I was on the right path and I listened to my intuition, which is God, universe, source, higher power. When I listened to that, that was when I knew. And that it's a beautiful place. It's like walking, if you've ever done this, it's like walking into the woods or into a field by yourself and feeling that breeze on your face and listening to the wind in the leaves, that sound, that silence is peace. And that's where we're not battling in our brains, because other things are trying to take over. And our brains have this force in it to protect us from the bear. But our brains don't know the difference. Brains can't distinguish time. So what happened to us in the past affects us today, because our brains don't know time. And our brains also don't know the difference between the feeling of being anxious, scared, excited, because of something new, and we're afraid of something new. That's the same feeling as a bear running at us, to our brains. And our brains don't know the difference. So it goes, stop. And so we need to learn to know the difference between that a bear is running at you, or a car is coming at you, and you need to jump onto that sidewalk because you don't want to get hit by the car. You don't want to get eaten by the bear, right?
Right.
when we learn the difference between that feeling we get, because it's the same emotions, and we can say to our brains, it's okay, we're okay. We're just trying something new. Let me tell you a quick story. So I turned 50. When I turned 50, I decided to, I'm going to learn how to play golf. I'm going to go out and ride a motorcycle. My mother always told me, never get on a motorcycle. It's dangerous. It's bad, 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 bad. Right. And I decided, I was with a bunch of EMT people. I was serving the emergency services community, which was a prize of mine. And we're sitting at my dinner table, and they're there and they're talking. They all have their motorcycles outside and cars and blah, blah, blah. And we're having dinner, and we end up talking about, being on a motorcycle. And somewhere along the line, I said, well, I've never ridden a motorcycle. My mom told me never get on a motorcycle. And they were like, what now? Now, emergency service people see what happens when someone gets hit by a motorcycle. Absolutely. So they are really, really strict about riding motorcycles, but they all ride them. And I was like, this isn't logical to me. Like, so you see what happens, the squishiness that happens, the damage that happens, the pain that someone can get caused by getting hit on a motorcycle or falling and dropping. We call it dropping a motorcycle. But yet you still ride it. And they said, because if you're taught right, then you know how to do it. And so they said, come on for a ride on the motorcycle. And I'm like, no. And they were like, trust us. And I was like, oh, all right. So I made a promise, don't go over 30 miles an hour. I had all these rules, which is, if you know me, not unlike me, a lot of rules, right? So we go out, we take the ride. It was freeing. Now, I'm not suggesting everybody should go out and ride a motorcycle. I'll get to the other part of the story that's important, but you need to know this part. And eventually what ended up happening is every weekend they would go for a ride out east, and they would come and pick me up, and I'd jump on the back of someone's motorcycle and they would drive me out. And finally, one of the riders was like, you need to get a motorcycle. And I'm like, I'm not buying a motorcycle. And they were like, okay. And then they invited me out, and they were like, look at this bike is up for sale. It's perfect for you. And I'm not buying a motorcycle. And it was. I'm not tall. All my height is in my neck. So I'm 5'4", so I needed a motorcycle that was pretty low. And this one was pretty low that he was pointing out. And he goes, just sit on it. And I was like, I'm not buying a motorcycle. And he goes, okay. And I sit on the motorcycle. I was like, she's sweet. Okay, I'm good. And I get off the motorcycle, and he goes, just make an offer. And I was like, I don't want to make it. He goes, just make an offer. I made a ridiculous offer, and they accepted it. What I did not know was it was a consignment motorcycle, and they were bringing the snowmobiles on, and they had to clear all the consignment motorcycles off. And the gentleman who owned the motorcycle had just gone through a divorce and had no place for the motorcycle. So he accepted the offer. And I'm like, I don't even know how to ride a motorcycle. And he goes, that's okay. I'll drive it to you. I'll pick it up and drive it to your house. Fast forward, they teach me how to ride a motorcycle. They bring me to this parking lot and makes me ride this big motorcycle in and out of the stalls next to each other. And if I could do that, they were happy. And it took a lot, because she's hard and heavy, and you have to really know how to maneuver it. Then they took me in. You know how you have stalls back to back, and there's this like line that divides the two stalls. You know where to stop most of the time. Okay. So he would have me go down that line and stop. When he said stop, I had to stop, put both my feet down on the dot. And he had me do that. I was doing this stuff for hours, for days, for weeks. And he finally said, good, we're taking a ride up to Laconia, New Hampshire. We're all going up in a group. And I was like, okay, what did I just say? And as the weeks were getting closer, I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? I'm not doing this. And the other voice in my head was like, why not? Just do it. And so what I started to do in my head was, what's the worst thing that can happen? Because I would say that to a client. What's the worst thing that could happen? I drop my bike. I take the bike. I rent a truck. I throw it in the truck. I drive home. Okay. And I would come up with all these scenarios, and it would always end the same. I'd put the truck in the thing in a truck. I put the bike in the truck, drive home, get home. They take me home, whatever. I tried it. Okay. So the day of, I'm sweating bullets. The whole week before, every hour, I'm like, no, I shouldn't do this. I got to call up and do it. And something made me not do it. The day of, we had to meet at 5:30 at the local 7-Eleven to drive out to get on. Not only was I driving on the road, but I had to get on a ferry that goes up and down and back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I get on my bike. I have it all packed. I walk it out to the end of my driveway because I want to be quiet for my neighbors. It's 4:30 in the morning. And I sit all geared up. And I look to my left and I look to my right and I look to my left and I look. It's 4:30 in the morning. There's no traffic. What am I looking for? I'm procrastinating, right? At the finest. And I was just like, just do it. Okay. I start my motorcycle. It's barely loud. Love that. And now I know why, because you want to be seen and heard, right? On a different level. And I start it up. I go across the street, over the curb, through the brush, down over the curb again, back into the side of the street. And I'm like, all right, I'm still standing. And I go to the sidewalk. I take off and I go to the 7-Eleven. What a heck of a way to start up. I was like, I could have given up right then and there. I could have given up. And everything in my body said, give up. You shouldn't be doing this. Don't do this. This is too dangerous. You shouldn't be doing this. And I was like, nope. And I went to the 7-Eleven and I went out to the ferry out at the east end of Long Island. And I see this boat. It's going up and down and side to side. And this other first time rider. And by the way, they had taken me out traveling and how to work and be in the pack, so to speak. They had done this weeks before. So I knew what I had to do, but I'd never gotten on a ferry. And this other rider, and they kept us in the center of the pack. So the really
the well-experienced was before and behind you.
Back, and we were there all nestled in. So like we were protected. Okay. So this other rider decided, no, they had one of the other bikers took her bike on, and she took a cart on, and I had that option. And I was like, no, I'm going to do this. And they were like, okay. And they told me a couple of things, and I was like, oh crap. And I was just driving on, and you have to go slow because of course the car stops right where I'm supposed to get on. And now the boat's going like this, and I'm stable here, and the boat's going like that. I get on, I get it to the elation I feel, right? Well, it just continued through that whole weekend. I'm on Long Island. We don't have a lot of hills, and Laconia is very hilly. I never really learned how to stop and start on a hill. You know how I learned? YouTube. I was watching YouTube. Do this, do this, do this, do this. But there was no place for me to practice. So I get up to Laconia. We do it, of course. The red light, the dreaded, oh my gosh, this cannot happen.
I again, grew up in Colorado, so I drove a clutch. So similar.
Yes.
You know what you're doing?
Yes. So I'm there at the light, and they're like, I hear the guys behind me, don't worry, the light turns green, and it won't go. I can't get. They're like, Lorianne, take your time. We'll hold the cars back. Don't you worry. Because that pressure makes you do silly things, right? And so they were like, you take your time. We don't care. You take your time. Okay. So I'm doing it, and I was like, what? The V, what happens when you accelerate is the Y goes down in the front. Your front like goes down. It's going down, but it's not catching. It's not going. And I'm like, why? What? I know why. Because I had my foot on my brake, like a death grip. And I was like, oh, I should probably let that go.
Yeah, if I want to go forward.
That might help. I don't know. Go figure. And so I let it go. I pop the bike. The bike takes off like a bat out of where, and I go. And I was like, okay, I could do this. And I did it again and again and again on the ride home. And this is the point. On the ride home, the satisfaction, the elation I felt, I did it. I did it. It was amazing. I overcame my fear. I was fearful about being on a hill. I was fearful of getting onto that ferry. I was fearful of just taking this ride with these guys. I actually, in the first time, on some of the older bikes, which mine was, it's a 2005. It was, you have to turn your gas tank when you're running out of gas. You have to flip this switch as you're riding to go on reserve, and then let everybody know you need gas because you have that amount of time. Otherwise, you could be pushing that bike, and they mean it too. You're going to push it, right? And I did it on the fly. I was the first time I did that on the fly too. So all these firsts and all this. So you can imagine I felt so that freedom, that peace, that yes, I can do it. Unstoppable. So I didn't let the fear get me. I didn't let my brain, that part of my brain say, watch out, don't do it. You can't do this. Don't do it. I didn't let the other people say no, because people were saying, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? But those guys had faith in me. The riders had faith in me. My EMT friends had faith that I could do this. And they said, we know you could do it. And because they said that to me, that little spark in me said, okay, I can do this. Let's do it. Let's do it. And I did. And I'm telling you, to this day, I still feel that elation, and you want to recreate it. So when I get a challenge, I'm like, whew, I get that nervous. I start sweating profusely. You're like, whoa, this is so scary. It's like getting on stage for the first time. You're like, whoa, what am I doing? It's right. But
Yes.
yeah. So that freedom, that is that peace, and it actually offers peace when you achieve it. It's like it's just you and your higher power. It has nothing to do with what anybody else thinks, and honestly, it's none of our business what anybody else thinks. And when I learned that too, it gave me a sense of freedom. It's not any of our business what anybody else thinks. It's our journey. And we need to take it at our pace. And we're exactly where we're supposed to be every step of the way. And every decision we make is the right one. It may not have the outcome we expect, but it's the right decision because it's the lesson we're supposed to learn. So we need to trust. And that trust is what gives us the peace. Really long way around to answer your question, but I got us there. Yeah. I landed the plane, Janice.
Thank you. It's all good. But it's a good story on learning that trust, which brings you peace, that feeling of peace and just trusting.
Yeah.
And so with that definition, it seems like writing might be one of the ways you bring yourself peace, but how else do you bring peace to yourself?
Serving other people, meditation, serving God, universe, source. Whenever I have been in a sad place, we all get there, right? Maybe losing trust or anything like that. Feeling pity poor me parties, serve somebody else. Go out and serve somebody else. It could be just from opening a door to somebody else. You get a good feeling when they say thank you. Making eye contact with other people. That's how I find that peace. Going out into nature. Get out of the big city. Put down your cell phones, stop with the social media, take a breath, be with yourself. It's fun. It's good. You're going to like it. You're going to like yourself. And when you start liking yourself, everything changes. And that comes from that peace inside, that liking yourself, who you are, making that choice to say no more and not accepting things that aren't in alignment with your values. Not in alignment with who you really want to be. I didn't want to be that person anymore. I gave pieces of myself away to be accepted with other people. I wasn't being myself. And after a while, you give so much away, you lose yourself. I had lost myself. That's why I had accepted the things that I was accepting. Yeah. And I didn't want to be that person anymore. I didn't even like that person. I wanted that 18-year-old, fierce, unstoppable, hey, why not? Woman to come back. I was like, where'd she go? I gave myself away in little pieces, little concessions. No, I gave away myself, and I wasn't being who I am, because we're all so brilliant. The reason why we're all different is because we all bring something else to the table. So if we're all the same, how are we setting that table if we're all the same?
It's kind of like Friendsgiving. If you all bring the same dish, it's not going to be a good meal.
Yeah, if we all have the sweet potatoes,
Exactly.
It's not going to be the best meal. I mean, we'll still eat, and that's a good thing, but where's the variety? So seeing, and that's what I love about serving other people and being with other people and seeing the uniqueness of other people. They feel that they're broken. And I was like, no, be yourself, be who you are. You're not broken. You're perfect the way you are. Imperfectly perfect. In the word imperfect is I'm perfect, right? So be imperfect, because within it you are, because you're being who you are. There's the peace to allow myself to be who I am. Good, bad, ugly. I have good days. I have bad days. Sometimes I'm like, ooh, wasn't my finest moment there.
Exactly.
Being aware, recognizing it gives us choices to do it better the next time, to be a better version of ourselves. That's why we're here, to help each other be a better version of ourselves, to step into the fullness of our potential. Like I always say, that's why we're here. That's why we're here.
Before we get to the next question, I do want to acknowledge the alternate universes. they say brilliant. Self-love is definitely a cornerstone of health.
Yes. Yes, brilliant.
Be the I am perfect.
Be the I am perfect. Yes, alternate universes. Dead doggone. Love it.
And so that actually leads to the next question is how do you help others find peace? How do you aid in their journey to peace?
Well, we need to know what we want. And when was the last time somebody asked you what you wanted? Not because we're serving other people. So what do you want? How can I help? Right? How can I help you? So it's really taking people through the journey of what they want. And when they find out what they want, they'll find their peace. Because when they really, really ask themselves that true, honest questions, and you know what you want, we have the answers. All we do as magical, mystical coaches is we help you unlock that door you've kept locked and hidden and you were scared about going into, because sometimes our society teaches us not to trust that, not to go back in that, not to know. But we really have all the answers, and all it does is knowing what you want. So what do you want? What do you really want? So helping people go through the exercises of really understanding it. And it takes a long time sometimes. Sometimes people know and some people don't, and that's okay. That's part of the journey, is to discover what you want. I didn't discover that I'm supposed to be a coach. If I look back at my whole life, everything screamed, you're a coach, you're a coach, you're a coach, you're a coach. Looking back, I can see it. Going through it, no idea.
No, no
Not
idea.
a clue.
Nope.
Not a clue, And so it's just amazing when you look back. But that's, again, finding out what you want. And when I discovered that this is where I was supposed to be and this is what I wanted to do, it brings happiness. You're in your joy. You ever use this phrase, I lost track of time? That's when you're in doing exactly what you're supposed to do. I was a singer, I still am. I'm a singer, right? But back at 19, I'll never forget, I was in a studio in New York City. And apparently it was 2:00 in the morning, but there were no windows or anything. So who knew what time it was? And I would sit in this little room. They would have it. This was before you could do all things digital, right? They literally have backup singers sitting in a room waiting to do this. That was me. So I was sitting in my room reading the book, unless I was sneaking out and trying to get into the engineer's booth because I wanted to figure out what all those buttons were for. Always wanting to learn, right? And so I was in there, and they would call me in, and they'd give you a piece of music, and they'd say, okay, sing this, and they'd get you in the booth, and you'd sing that line. And they're like, great, or do it again, or whatever. And then you go back in. You would think it was, we didn't have cell phones or anything like that back then. We'd bring a book, or we'd hang out and talk, or we'd sneak into the engineer's room and ask them a ridiculous amount of questions. Why do you do this? Help me understand that, right? The time just went away. I didn't have any idea what time is. And that's a man-made thing anyway. Time is just not really real, right? But you lose track of time because you're engaged, your brain is engaged, your heart is engaged, your soul is engaged. That's when you know you're doing something that you love, something that you're meant to do, and it's your wheelhouse. And if you really look at it, that's where you're the best. That's where the best version of you comes out, is you're right there serving someone else, doing whatever this is. Whether you're a hairdresser or, a railroad worker or whatever you do, that's your happy place. That's your happy place. So we need to find what is, and that's your what is your why is your purpose. They're all connected. And that's how I help other people. I help them find their what. We start with the what, and then we go to the why. And the why is the values. And those values that you have is your litmus test. If you're working with the right people, you're surrounding yourself with the right people. Listen, our net worth is our network around us, the people we allow around us. And so if you're surrounded by people who may be lazy, or who might just be doing things that aren't necessarily in alignment with your values, those aren't the people those aren't your people. You can let them wash away. And I think Mercury retrograde, to get a little I believe, and I sit in Mercury retrograde when it happens. It's going to happen anyway, right? But I sit in it and I enjoy it now, because now I understand the people who are dropping away are no longer serving my life and I'm no longer serving them. It's a two-way street. Serving is a two-way street.
Yes.
And so that's where the phrase a reason, a season, and a lifetime.
Okay.
Their reason is done. And so is mine. And so they will drop away, or situations will drop away, or jobs will drop away, whatever the case may be, to clear room. I mean, we started this with making clarity, right? Clearing things out to clear room for opportunity and abundance to come in. And so if we sit in the silence of it and we stop the motion, which is what we're supposed to do in retrograde, we're supposed to stop, re-engage, reset, and then start again. That's why I won't sign contracts. I won't, engage in any kind of commitments during the retrograde, because everything is clearing out to show me where I'm supposed to go next.
Yes. Yes. And sometimes you just step back and watch the havoc. You're like, oh, I can't say anything because no one's going to listen, but
It's like, oh my, and it's not necessarily just with you. It's like you watch out there and during the last Mercury retrograde, oh my.
Yeah, it was a doozy.
Oh my. And the pandemic, that was, part of it was Mercury retrograde, but that to me was an opportunity. Universe, God, source was saying, slow down, stop, connect with each other. We're all the same. Everybody suffered the same illness across the world. That was reminding us, it doesn't matter what our religion is, what the color of our skin is, if we're female, male, whatever our thought processes are, it doesn't matter. We're all the same, and we need to be working with each other the same, not working against each other. That's where unity comes back in. We're supposed to be united. And if it takes a pandemic to do it, we're going to do this. And we're going to reveal a bunch of things you're not going to want to hear and you're not going to want to see, but we're going to reveal that to you. And that's what's been going on ever since. And that's why you're seeing like these shifts going on. And it's very exciting, actually.
Yes. And also kind of unstable, but we'll
unstable, scary, but change is scary. When I drove away from that job with no job on the horizon, and I was always the foot in one door, foot in the other door before I left one job. I always had another job. Yep. That's how I was brought up to do nothing. And yet I was calm. And that was
a great sense of peace in that. And that does take a lot of trust.
A lot of trust. Yeah. But I didn't know that that's what that journey was, but that's what it was. And it was just like the start of my journey to get back into trust, because I had lost trust. I'd given away so many pieces of myself. How could I trust? I couldn't trust myself at that point, right? Because I wasn't being who I am. So, coming back and being that fierce, unstoppable, strong woman is beautiful. Is a beautiful thing. Stop giving in to what other people want me to be, what they want me to look like. Well, that's fine. You can do that. No judgment. That's not what I want to do. My now partner, he's amazing. When we first started dating, he stated this statement to me. He used to drive me nuts, and I was like, and it would drive me nuts because I couldn't get around it. That's why it drove me nuts, because I was like, I could get around, I can make a justifiable excuse for anything. Hence the book name, right? But he would say this to me: that doesn't work for me. What? What does that even mean? That doesn't work for me. And I was like, well, yeah, just come along. No, it doesn't work for me. That says you could do it. I'm not judging what you're doing. It just doesn't work for me. It was a brilliant statement. And when I finally stopped trying to get around it, stopped trying to beat through it, I realized the brilliance of the state. It's okay. He didn't want to do that because it didn't work for him, but it worked for you. So go ahead, go do it. I support you 100%. It's just not something I want to do. And that's okay. And it's okay for someone to say that. So, when you're going to say, I don't want to do that, perhaps the better choice is, maybe the more honest choice is, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me to do that. To me, brilliance, absolute brilliance. It was still annoying though, because he would do what I wanted him to do. And that was the point of it, right? It's like, no, I want you to do this with me. Yeah, that doesn't work for me. It's full stop, wind out of the sail. Mic drop.
It's going to happen, but you can do it.
Yeah.
So I get that a lot. And it's good to do things separate. because you find the things that you want to do together. And it's good to find things like, because then you can come back together.
Yeah, and then you have something to talk about.
Yeah, and eases any codependency.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's something he doesn't have. He walks in abundance. It's just amazing. He doesn't even realize that he walks everything that I teach, but he does it naturally. And I was just like, where did he get that? This is just who he is. Who he is. He's unstoppable. He's always happy. He's always joyous. He, does he get frustrated? Yeah, we all do. Does he like technology? Not so much sometimes, but he walks in joy and he just sees good in everybody. He has a really hard time holding on. He gives forgiveness, which is our prison. By not forgiving, we imprison ourselves, right? Forgiveness is our grace. And so he just forgives so easily. He's like, oh, that was terrible that they did that. And the next day he's okay with them again. And I was like, how do you do that? He goes, well, it was yesterday. It's, they made a mistake. Amazing. He's just an amazing light, and he walks the law of attraction. He walks the law of abundance. He just walks the law of forgiveness, and it's amazing. And so that doesn't work for me. It makes perfect sense in the package that he offers. So and such a gift for me to have him in my life. That universe, God, source, and I suspect my father and his father got together to put us together. so
there was, there's always some help.
Yeah, there was definitely guidance there, without a doubt. So every once in a while, because his son's birthday is my father's birthday, and I was like, well, there you have it.
There you have it.
Right. You see all the synergies, right?
And final question: what's in your toolbox? So this can be. I like to give a real world example. So you brought coming onto the stage. So if you are coaching somebody who's never been on stage and you're like, okay, you got this, and they're going through that nail biting, maybe I should run the other direction moment right before you're supposed to go on stage.
Sure, we all have them.
I was there recently.
I still have them.
What's in your toolbox or in your tool belt that you can pull out and say, okay, we have 5 minutes. Let's do this. Well, what do you have that you can pull out, help bring some peace and ease before you kind of push them on stage or push yourself on stage?
Yeah. So 2 things is we have to remember that we're given a voice for a reason, and that we are, and I'll use a little Italian guilt, it is our responsibility. It would be very selfish of us not to share with the people waiting for what you have to say. It'd be selfish of us not to do that, and to have wisdom to know that you're being guided to do this, and to remember, and I usually do a prayer with people, which is, and I do it myself, which is I pray to my guides and my angels and to my higher power to give me the wisdom and the words to speak what the people need to hear who have come to hear what I have to say. And the same thing for someone going on stage is just remember, have that prayer to your angels and guides. They will be with you. You're not alone on that stage. You're not alone in your walk. You're not alone in life. And when you're having that moment of, oh my gosh, I want to run the other way, that's when you're stepping into greatness. Know that that's a great moment. That fear is what fuels us, because we're stepping into the next level. We're stepping into the fullness of our potential to share it with other people. So you don't have the right nor the ability to turn around and run the other way. You have to run forward. We have to run forward, but we're going to do it together. We're going to do it together. And then when you touch those lives, you're going to see the difference, that what your words, maybe it's just one person in that audience that you changed their life based on the fact that you had the courage and the wisdom and the trust to step out there.
That is a beautiful reminder. And that, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that with us today.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you and tell all my stories.
And as I noted in the introduction, is you're also a radio show host. So tell people where we can find that.
Oh, you can find me at Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I'm on JVC Broadcasting and iHeartRadio, and on all the platforms, all the major podcasting platforms. So Spotify, Google, Apple, you'll find me. Don't worry. If you put Coach Lorianne in, you will find me. I promise.
Beautiful. And I'm going to stick you in the green room. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
Thank you, Janice. Thank
Thank
you for having
you.
us. I'm so honored and privileged to be here.
This was a great conversation. I might have you back on the show. I would love that.
I would love that too.
One second. So, thank you, Coach Lorianne, for being on Unique Peace today. This was a beautiful conversation. And anybody who is joining us live, thank you for joining us live. Anybody who is listening to the replay, please leave your comments. I read them all. I respond. Thank you so much for being here and participating. And if this is your first time tuning in, please do subscribe. And if you like this episode, please give it a heart or a thumbs up. And next week, we will be talking with Ryan Herland. He is a men's mental health advocate, and we have Mental Health Day coming up very soon, next week, in fact. So join us for that episode. And in the meantime, have a peaceful day. Thank you.